So, Ed Davey, let's start with what the Prime Minister said today on Golders Green, promising to fast-track hate crime prosecutions. Do you support that, or are you concerned that in the rush to legislate, there is an issue here potentially with freedom of speech and civil liberties?
Well, I think we will look very seriously at the proposal because what's happening with anti-Semitism in our country is appalling. And I was speaking to the Jewish community in London earlier today and listening to their fear and their anger. I think we now really need to act. We've had too many warnings, too many attacks on synagogues, too much hatred being spread. And I think this is one proposal. There's many more that we need to see.
Well, and does that action extend, in your view, to supporting the Prime Minister on banning certain marches? For example, there's one coming up next weekend where a pro-Palestine march is going to coincide with a Tommy Robinson march. Should that be banned?
Well, I leave those decisions up to the police because I think you need to do it on a case-by-case basis. Of course, we need to make sure we protect freedom of speech and the right to protest. But what has been happening is some of these marches have been hijacked by people preaching hate, and we've got to stamp down on that. We need to support the police, give them anti-Semitism training so that they know what it is wrong and where they should intervene.
But is it absolutely clear where free speech ends and where hate speech begins? I mean, for example, a placard saying globalise the Intifada, is that absolutely definitively hate speech in your view?
I think we've got to look at that very seriously because what that means is it is violence and it does spread hatred. People who
So it is hate speech. You say look at it very closely. Is it hate speech or isn't it?
I think it crosses the boundary. But let the people who need to look at this look at it. We will support approaches which crack down on hate speech and crack down on anti-Semitism. One thing that I think the government has dragged its feet on, and I'm afraid the Conservatives failed to do it, is to prescribe the IRGC. Quite a lot of this hate speech, and indeed some of the violence, is coming from Iranian-backed terrorist groups. And the fact that we're not prescribing them, given the police all the powers to go after those Iranian actions, is just not good enough.
But if the police decide that they want to ban that march that we're talking about, you would back that, would you?
Yeah, if the police believe that a march is going to be unsafe and cause real unrest and create that hate speech, yes, of course.
I mean, talking about banning things and, stopping marches going ahead, it's not very Lib Dem, is it?
No, well, I made it clear that we want to protect freedom of speech and we want to protect the right to protest, and that will be our default position. But if there's going to be danger, if there's going to be a protest hijacked by people who are spreading hate, the police need to make that judgment and need to be able to step in.
So the act of protesting about what you've called genocide in Gaza, others dispute that terminology, but that's the phrase you've used. You're happy for those mass protests to take place. You don't think that there's an intimidatory, effect of that for Britain's Jewish community?
There are many people who protest peacefully and lawfully and respecting others, and I think that is just true. But when people cross the boundary, when they are spreading hate, the police need the powers to be able to intervene.
And you're very clear where that boundary is, because it's not always clear, is it? Where one person's placard, trumpeting hate speech is someone else's freedom of speech.
Well, I think that's why we've called on the police to have that detailed training so they can make those judgments. One can accept that those judgments will be different because it can vary from march to march, from placard to placard, and that's why the police need our backing to have the full training so they can step in. We do have to take this seriously.
I mean, obviously, the reason why we're talking about all of this is because of the war in Iran. Trump says that Iran should raise the white flag of surrender. In the meantime, though, it's devastating Britain's economy and other economies around the world. You've backed a fuel duty cut, a heating oil price cap. I mean, have you looked at... The taxes are at record highs, our borrowing figures are at record highs. I mean, you're not living in the real world, are you?
Totally in the real world, because the damage that's being done to families and businesses across our country, which will basically hit economic growth. What is happening because of these high oil and gas prices, because of Trump's idiotic war in Iran, is the chance of actually getting a tax windfall. She's getting a tax windfall from the energy profits levy, from the gas revenue, from VAT on fuel duty. And what we're saying is use that, not use anything else that was in the budget, use the tax windfall you're getting to recycle it. it.
But there's already a windfall tax that the government has proposed. So, I mean, there's not really much difference that you're proposing there.
This is very different. And we're using figures from independent experts who say that there's about £8 billion extra on top of anything that she's announced that is a windfall. And we're saying, look, let's have a temporary package initially for 3 months, and our package comes out at £2 billion. We would take excise duty down to make sure that people had a 12p a litre cut in petrol and diesel. We'd reduce the cap on bus fares from £3 to £1, cut trains fare by 10%. That's to help people who are struggling because of Trump's idiotic war.
But you want to take the easy decisions, don't you, really? You know, you're an opposition party, you're never going to get into government. You can make these kind of populist gestures and you don't really have to account for it. So if you wanted to take a really tough decision, you'd look at your backing for, say, the pensions triple lock. But you've said under no circumstances will you look at that. These are emergency circumstances, aren't they?
Well, I think pensions you've saved, they should be given that protection. I'm proud it was Liberal Democrats in government that brought that in, and it's made a big difference because pensioners in our country have fallen behind the average in Europe and indeed behind pensioners in countries that are much less well off than the UK.
So no matter what state the economy is in, you don't want to touch that policy pledge. You will commit to the pensions triple lock.
We have committed and we stand by that. But let me go back to your point, because you're suggesting that it's an easy decision. I think it's a bad decision by the government not to follow our advice. They are getting in this tax windfall because of this idiotic war. People are really suffering. It's hurting our economy. And if you do what we're advocating, what you would see with petrol and diesel prices coming down lower than they otherwise would have been, you'd see a reduction in inflation. And if you had lower inflation, that the borrowing costs of government would go down, you wouldn't see interest going up. So what we're talking about is good, sensible economics with the Chancellor acting, taking action. It's really sad, actually, that we're the only party calling for this. I've been really surprised how unambitious the Conservatives and Reform have been, and I'm really disappointed that Labour doesn't feel the need to act.
But no matter what the economic damage from this war, you commit to the pensions triple lock. That is clear.
Well, I don't think we need to consider that at the same time as the war. What we need to do...
It was a kind of straight yes or no, really. You commit to the pensions triple lock.
It's been in our manifesto election after election.
OK. You're proud of standing up to Donald Trump, not least over Iran, but before that as well. But you're not getting anywhere, are you? I mean, you know, you said you'd boycott the state banquet last year, and all that happened was you missed a nice dinner.
Well, I think we sent a really clear signal that Trump's failure to act in Gaza was wrong, and at long last he eventually did act. But
it was a stunt, though, wasn't it?
No, it was making a serious point, and people like yourself covered it, and you also listened to my argument that Donald Trump was the only politician in the world who could say to all sides, look, this has got to end, we need the ceasefire. And my overall opposition to Trump, I think, has been really, really important. We've seen, take the Iran war you mentioned, initially, Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives, Nigel Farage and Reform were cheerleading for Donald Trump and suggesting that we should enter the war. They were completely wrong. In the past, the Prime Minister, although he may have got it right over not supporting Trump over Iran, has been very, very weak in dealing with this bully in the White House.
Right. I mean, he's changed his tune now.
At long last, but I would say this. When he came in, it was quite obvious he was going to be protectionist and put tariffs and taxes on our businesses, and that's why I led the argument that we needed an alternative.
Right.
And I said we should have a new UK-EU customs union to protect our businesses.
OK, I want to come to the EU.
And I wish they had done that.
I want to come
We've
to
been
the
proven
EU.
right.
And I do want to come to the EU, but I want to ask you about Thursday's elections first. You are the third largest political party in Westminster. You're now at 5th place in the polls. What is the point of the Lib Dems under your leadership?
We keep winning. At the last election, we had our best result for 100 years under my leadership. Last May, for the first time ever, we beat both Labour and the Conservatives in the local elections just a year ago. Throughout the last year, which party won more council by-elections? It was the Liberal Democrats.
You can say that now, but we're some days off the results coming in. But it looks like it's going to be the Greens and Reform winning these elections.
Well, let me tell you, we're going to gain. We're going to have a really good night.
But you're going to be well behind the Greens and the Reform. I mean, the Greens are the new Lib Dems, aren't they? They're the new insurgents.
No, they're basically following on from Jeremy Corbyn and the left wing of the Labour Party. What we are doing is winning in seats where I think will be crucial next election. So we're going to take seats off the Tories in Surrey and Sussex, Sussex and Hampshire and Huntingdon.
So the Tories are your main opponents?
Well, in those areas, but will also take seats off Labour in parts of London, places like Merton and Southwark, and go to Birmingham, go to Stockport, around the country. So I predict...
You'll have it always, basically.
Well, we're going to win in many, many places, you're right. And what's quite exciting for us in the party... But no, let me finish this, it's really, really important. This will be our 8th consecutive year, if we do make net gains, of increasing Lib Dem councillors. And by the
Why are people so unhappy with you and your party, then? And 51% of Lib Dem voters think you're doing well, that's all.
Well, listen...
What's going wrong?
They like us winning, and I'm really proud that we keep winning. By the way, they also like, whether it's my leadership on the opposition to Trump, whether it's being the most pro-European party leader, or indeed the way we fight these local elections. So the fact that we actually take local elections on local issues, unlike the other parties who bring national politics into it all the time, they actually like. The fact that we're raising on things like fly tipping, like potholes. We've been criticised by Kemi Badenoch. She said, well, the Liberal Democrats, they're the sorts of people who want to fix your church roof.
She said that quite a while ago. She was a new leader.
Well, yes, but she still said it. And she was right. People in the community do like us, and we try to fix things. And I'm really proud of that record.
I'm surprised that more of your own voters don't like you, according to the polls.
Well, let's see how they vote, because they keep backing us and we keep winning.
And we'll get you back on, I know we will. But look, before I get onto the EU, which I do want to get onto, we are seeing the collapse of the status quo, aren't we? The collapse of the two-party political system. Your pet subject, proportional representation, no one talks about that anymore, but in this new era of politics, that should be talked about, shouldn't it? Are you still up for it?
Totally. And I think when you see the results on Thursday night, when we will make big gains, I think you will find lots more people talking about electoral reform. Because when you're in a multi-party system, it means first past the post doesn't represent people at all. It's even worse than it has been in the past. And therefore, what I hope we can engender, and maybe you can be part of it here on Sky, is when we see those results, unfairly reflecting people's views, the case for electoral reform and PR will be even greater.
You're going to start shouting about that. And I wonder if you're going to start shouting also about rejoining the EU, because your policy at the moment is a 4-stage plan to join the EU. You know, the Greens, who I've said, you know, they're the new Lib Dems. I know you disagree on that.
Totally disagree.
They're talking right now about rejoining the EU. Clear policy. Why can't you be clearer on that?
Well, they clearly haven't talked to people in Europe, because you'll be shocked to know that Europe doesn't trust the UK after what the Conservatives did. They're very worried about what Nigel Farage is saying. So
you're not promising to rejoin because you don't think they'll let us back?
No, let me finish. If you want to rebuild that trust, you've got to show that you're serious about it. And therefore, you have to take the steps. And I don't apologise for that at all. Everyone knows that eventually we'd like Britain to be at the heart of Europe. We've said that in our last manifesto. It's hardly new. The question is, what is a practical way that will help grow our economy, help cut the cost of living, help make sure our country is safer and defended better? We keep putting forward those ideas.
Yeah, you just don't want to be clearer because you don't want to lose all those Tory votes you were talking about a minute ago.
I couldn't be clearer. I've just said what our position is.
But you're very gradual, aren't you?
Well, I don't apologise for that, because that's real politics. So what we have done, to be really clear for your viewers, is we've called for a new UK-EU customs union so we can grow our economy and trade better. We've called and agreed with the Europeans for a youth mobility scheme, because that will help growth. We're finding ways to promote closer trading relationships between our UK and Europe, because that will grow our economy. And we're also looking at ways we can cooperate on defence. Because with Donald Trump pulling out of supporting Europe, we need to make sure that we're working with our European allies to defend our country.
I've had a go at you for not being bold enough on the EU, but one decision you have made as leader, which has been bolder than some of your predecessors, was over suspending your peer, Lord Reynard, pending a fresh investigation into claims of harassment against him made 13 years ago. Do you still want him out of the Lords?
Listen, I'm going to wait until that investigation is concluded. You're right, there is an investigation, but when there is an investigation, it is right that we allow that investigation to take its course. So I can't comment.
When's that investigation going to complete?
You'll be surprised to know it's an independent investigation of me, so I don't know.
Right.
All I know
is... It could be years.
I doubt it will be years. What I would say is that I'm very happy to come and talk to you once that investigation has been completed. Right.
Just finally, I've asked all the other political leaders about their families, their personal lives. And, you know, women in politics are always asked how they cope. You know, you care for your disabled son, John. Your wife, Emily, has multiple sclerosis. Does it ever feel too much, juggling, leading a party and everything you've got going on at home?
We are carers, and we're fortunate to have the support of our family and to manage caring for my son, working together as a family. But many people aren't. And they don't have the voice, they're exhausted. And we're in privileged positions, both as Emily as a councillor, myself as an MP, to speak up for carers. There's maybe 8 million family carers looking after loved ones, and people haven't spoken up from the past. Because I have this very privileged period, and I'm honoured to have it,
Do you ever
I think
feel
I need to
exhausted
use
by
that
it all,
to
though?
speak up for people. Well, I think most people sometimes have days when they're tired, but I am strongly motivated for the Liberal Democrat values. I want to empower people, empower carers who don't have a voice, and hold the powerful to account, whether they're water companies, whether they're social media giants. That's what liberalism is all about. And I get up every day wanting to pursue those values, and also to stop people like Nigel Farage and Reform ruining our country, trying to import Trumpian divisive politics and ruin our democracy. We're going to fight that every day.